Welcome to this week's strength training for runners. This week we're going to be looking predominantly at core work. We'll be doing some breathing drills and then we'll be applying that to different exercises, and then we'll just be finished with a couple of drills like just some lower body, sort of progressing what we've been working on for the last few weeks. So for today's session, I'm going to need a chair. I'm just going to use my bench. That's just for the first little bit actually. And then we're going to need a weight and we're going to use a ball. Now this is for an overhead exercise, so I wouldn't make it too heavy. I've got a 3 here. If I was training this myself, I'd probably got to about 5, maybe a 6. But for the purposes, I would try and keep this one light because overhead reach probably usually uses a sort of more smaller muscle group. Okay, so we're going to start down on the floor and I'm going to coach you through some breathing. Now in week 1, we did this as one of our basics, but it's always a useful drill to come back to. So we're going to lie on the mat. Just going to start my stopwatch. Okay, and we're going to place the hands onto the ribs. Now, if lying down on your back isn't very comfortable, you can always pop a little prop, like a half towel, rolled towel onto your head, which can be really helpful for just like making sure the air windpipe is nice and open and the eye line is straight to the sky. From here, we're going to take some nice, we're just going to do 5 nice breaths. Now we're going to breathe in through the nose and then out through the mouth. The nasal inhale is going to be a nice silent inhale. Okay, imagine you don't want to brush any of the hairs in your nostrils. And the exhale is going to start, imagine it starting at the bottom of your tummy, like at your pelvic floor. And then we're going to slowly bring the air up and out and in through the ribs. And what you should feel is like the ribs will be drawing back and down. You should feel like heavier into the mat about your ribs. Okay, so I'm just going to take some of these breaths for starters. You probably won't be able to hear. I'm going to take this nice silent inhale in through my nose. So if I was in the room there, I shouldn't be able to hear that, and it should be very long and smooth. I'm going to pause at the end of that inhale, make sure I'm nice and relaxed, purse my lips, and then start for the exhale as if I'm blowing through a straw. And as I do that, and I should be continuing through exhale, I want you to start imagining the air drawing up and out and your ribs are drawing back and down. Pause at the end of the exhale. And we're going to come into that subtle inhale again. I'm just going to do the 5 breaths with you this time. So this is the end of my inhale, and then the exhale begins. And then I'm going to take a pause at the end here. As I come into my next inhale, I want you to keep your hands on your tummy, and I don't want any air to come into your hands, into your tummy. I don't want your tummy to expand. I want you to imagine pushing the breath into the ribs, and not the ribs that are at the bottom, the ribs that are like around your nipple line. Okay, so no breath into the tummy, inhale. No, we want to think about breathing into the sides of the ribs. Then pause at the end of the inhale, and then we're going to exhale with blowing through the straw. Now, a lot of the time when I see this exhale, what I'll see is people exhaling from the almost like crunching down, and I'll see like the lower part of their abdominals start to blow up. And what's happening is you're just crunching down at the ribs to create the exhale and pushing the air to the bottom. So for the next exhale, I want you to stay really long. Don't let the pelvis and the ribs come together. I want you to think about length between the two, but almost like they're drawing inwards. Okay, take up another breath just here. And you should feel that all around your ribs. And then after that pause, we take that exhale down. And the last breath here, one more thing to try. I want you to, as you take that exhale, I want you to try and maintain a tiny little ant's path underneath your lower back. Okay, so last breaths just here. Try and do 2 or 3 breaths consecutively. So inhaling into the side of the ribs, not into the tummy. Take a pause at the end of the inhale. Purse the lips. See if you can find that little space between your lower back and the floor. And then we're going to start that exhale, nice, long, smooth and consistent. Stay long. Don't let the ribs crunch down. And then at the end of the exhale, I want you to pause. And then I want you to think about that inhale again into the sides of your hands. And then we're going to take this exhale. Now, before we take that next inhale, I want you to think about holding some of that tension in your abs, and we're going to take the inhale into the ribs. Pause at the end of the inhale, and then long, smooth, consistent exhale out. Now, this breathing drill you could practice forever and ever. It should always feel challenging with the way that we can pull more exhale out. We always want to get to the bottom of the exhale, so get all the air out. And then when we take that inhale, we want to really fill the inhale, because over time we want to grow our ability to absorb, to open the oxygen into our lungs. Okay, enough of that. So that is how we build tension in our abdominal cavity, so building internal pressure. But what we also want to think about is a spine that can flex and can extend, okay? So we're just gonna have a little look at spinal flexion, which is one of the things that most people struggle with. So we're gonna place the hands between the legs, and we're gonna just drop the chin down towards the chest. Now from here, we're gonna take an inhale, and then we're gonna exhale and slowly, 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 just a nice, smooth, relaxing, flowing exhale, and roll into like a fold down at the front. Don't go too far, because we're going to do this in stages. We're going to take another inhale here, and then we're going to slowly, slowly, slowly keep rolling down. Now don't let the chin untuck, and I want you to think like you're rolling into a snail's shell, okay? So rolling and rolling and rolling. Pause just here, take a nice inhale, and then we're going to roll back down again. Now, unlike the breathing drills we've just done there, this should be a gentle inhale, gentle exhale, and we should be as relaxed as we possibly can. Taking an inhale as we stay in that position, and an exhale, sighing exhale as we roll down. As you get lower, try and keep the sitting bones pointing down. So try not to tilt forward into the hips. Just nice and relaxing, rolling down. And we want to imagine what we're doing is just flexing our spine, like I said, turning into that snail shell. Last one just here. Keep the chin tucked, make it uncomfortable, stretch your spine. And just a really nice big sighing exhale. And now I want you to push through the floor with the feet and roll through every vertebrae as you come back up to that top position. Okay, now we spent 7 minutes doing that, and although that feels like a lot of time, really, really important in order to layer on these core exercises. So coming up to our next set of exercises, I'm going to take you through 4 different exercises that move the spine in 4 different directions. Okay, so we're going to start with a wall bug, and a wall bug is one of my favorite core exercises. It's incredibly humbling, and it's a really good way to really find this breathing drill. So we come down onto the floor, place your head about a fist distance from the wall, and then I want you to place your hands, the whole hand on the back of the wall here. Now my elbows are pointing to the sky. I'm imagining them pulling my shoulder blades away from my spine and reaching up to the sky. From here, I'm going to slowly bring 1 leg and 2 leg. I don't want you to smash your spine into the floor here. I want you to make sure there's that little ants path we just practiced with the breathing drill. And all we're going to do in here is just practice that breathing drill again. So we're going to do 8 breaths, 5 to 8 breaths just here. Now make sure the knees are at 90-90, okay? And everything's nice and relaxed. Already I can feel my core is working. And I'm just going to do those 8 breaths just here. In between the breaths, I check I'm not smashing my spine into the floor, and I'm staying really nice and long. And then just last breath just here. If it's feeling comfortable, try and take the knees a tiny bit away from the midline. Reaching the elbows up to the sky as high as you can. And relax, 1, 2. Okay, so that's the wall bug. That trembling feeling you should be getting is from a really nice full exhale and holding that tension as you take your inhale and think about breathing into your ribs instead of your tummy. Second exercises, we're going to do the same thing again. Now I'm going to coach you these foundation movements, and then the next round we're going to progress them. You can always stay with these if you want to. So we're going to come into all fours. Now I quite like putting the feet against the wall here, just because it can help with where the pelvis is in space. So we put the feet into the wall and we pull the toes up, and you'll start to feel like hamstrings kicking in. In this position, all we're going to do, and I'm just going to demonstrate this with my t-shirt tucked in because it's quite a useful one to see. In this position here, my hands are spread and I'm pushing through the floor, okay? And I'm really, really tall. My toes are pulling up the wall. Now, I want you to imagine your spine is like an S shape. So you're reaching the shoulder blades away and pushing your ribs back into that space you've created. And then we're just going to take the breath here. So we take a long, silent inhale in, staying long in the spine, thinking about breathing into the ribs. Then we're going to exhale. And we're going to take a really, really long, smooth exhale. And I want you to imagine that rather than your spine dropping down into the, to sort of create that, to meet the front of the tummy, I want you to think about the front of the tummy being drawn into the spine. Okay, so the breath should look like this. There's my inhale, I pause. Then I take that pause exhale after the exhale, and then I'm going to breathe in. And this time, no breathing into the tummy. Breathe it all into the ribs. Take a pause at the end of the inhale, and then a... So as we inhale, we're creating expansion in the ribs. And as we exhale, we're causing compression in the abdominal area and in the ribs. Everything is coming in and together and getting smaller. Okay, off we go again. 2 more breaths here. Try and hold that tension you've created in your abdomen. Silent, silent, calming inhale, and the big exhale out. Just be mindful of that as you exhale, that you're not arching the back to create that exhale, or crunching back down and getting like your abs on here. We want to think of this as the oxygen, or the air coming out, and it's coming from the bottom up to the top. Okay, next up, side planks. So coming down onto the side, knees are stacked. Or we're going to shoulder over the top of the wrist, of the elbow, okay? So often I'll see people in this position here. You've got to be closed and over the top. We're going to push through the floor using the elbow mostly, and the knee and the lower limb, and then we're just going to reach forward from here. Now already I can feel my underside obliques working, so when I add that breath into here, I'm feeling that compression, more happening there. Okay, I'm just going to do 3 more breaths here. Reaching really tall out that arm on the floor, getting as tall as you can. I want you to imagine your shoulder blade is reaching away from your spine. And in this top arm again, you're taking that shoulder blade away from here as well and creating a small amount of rotation. So keep going with those breaths, reaching. If you're feeling this around your neck and shoulders, it's likely that you're opening up at the arm too much. Make sure you're fully stacked. And last breath there. And we're going to switch on to the other side. So just remember that long, smooth exhale. The more exhale you get out, the more deep internal tissues you're going to recruit. So we push up, we reach the arm forward. And this top arm is actually giving us some nice rotation in the ribs. So keep it reaching, shoulder blades, both blades are coming away from the spine. You're reaching out the bottom arm and you're reaching forward with the top arm. And you're pushing through the floor, trying to be as tall as possible, and try and open this space here and close it at the bottom. And then just the last breath here. Breathing into the side of the ribs. Exhaling through that bottom little space between the pelvis and ribs. Okay, the last exercise we're going to do. Now, for some people, this exercise is very, very difficult. Okay, and they probably need to do more of that seated roll down. But for anybody who can, we're going to place the hands around the front of the legs. And you can, if you can, hold the front of the feet. If not, just hold the arms around the front of the shins. But the aim of the arms is to take the shoulder blades away from the spine. And from here, all we're going to do is we're going to rock and then come forward. Now, if this feels difficult at first, just give it some reps, okay? So just give it some reps just here, and we just keep on going through this. If you can't get either back or forward, it generally means your spine, you can't round through your spine. So if you can't, what I want you to do is I want you to pull yourself back, pull your legs back, so you pull the weight back with you, and then pull yourself up by pulling the legs away. So just keep it small and keep from here, okay? You've got to start from somewhere. An alternative would be that you can just use the wall. So you come from here and then just use the wall to push off from there, okay? So, but if you can't do it, this is a skill you really want to get. So that's a really important exercise if you can't do that. Okay, just do a couple more rock and rolls and then we're going to come back to the beginning. You might need a quick sip of water. That breathing can sometimes dry your mouth out. Okay, right, so for those of you who are trying to get your head around the wall bug, stick with the wall bug. For those of you who feel you've got that wall bug, you can train with me to come and do this, the dead bugs. So dead bug is exactly the same as that wall bug, but we're going to start moving the limbs. So for this, you can have a weight. If you haven't got a weight, don't worry. So the knees come to 90-90, the arm reaches up. Okay, you've got a weight in, I've got weight in my left hand, and my right leg is going to move away. Okay, so I'm going to turn my knuckle towards the floor, and I'm going to lower my leg and arm simultaneously to hover just above the floor, and then they're going to come back up. Okay, if it feels quite a lot, you might need to lose the weight. I actually think probably this is my 3 is quite heavy in this. Okay, so we exhale as we lower, reaching with the arm, and then we're going to come back up again, and 2. If you're not feeling this in your core, it's like you should come back to the wall bug. Okay, so there's 3, and we're going to come back up again, and then smooth exhale down, and 4. We're going to go all the way to 8 with this, and 5. Smooth and slow, exhaling down, and 6. And really feel that core managing your pelvis and ribs so that nothing changes between your ribs and pelvis, okay? One thing that I'll often see, and last rep here, is the pelvis rocking back and forth. I'll show you on this side. So switching sides, it comes from here, okay? The ribs flare, the spine arches. So that's one reason sometimes people's back hurts. The other reason is if they take an inhale and are unable to create pressure within their tummy, then basically something has to hold on and it'll likely be their back. Okay, so there's no point in coming into dead bugs if you can't actually feel them working into your core, because it means you're unable to stabilize your pelvis and your ribs in these positions. So you're best coming back to that wall bug. Okay, last rep just here. So smooth exhale coming out, reaching, 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 and coming up. Okay, next exercise. So come back to that all 4 abs position. So this coming onto all 4 with the feet at the wall. If that feels like it's fine, we'll come into some bear crawls. So a bear crawl, we take our time, we get onto all 4s, and all we're going to do is march forward, keeping the knees as low as possible, and then we're going to come back, okay? And we're just going to do 3 sets, 3 reps of this. So if I had a mat, I'd probably be going to about the length of my mat. But don't stick the bum in the air. Bring the knees down and make your core work for this position. And back we come. And that's your bear crawl. Okay, so the bear crawl is that all four abs position here, but we're just marching with it. Okay, next up, last time we did that side plank, we're gonna have a little go at a Copenhagen plank. Same thing, but just slightly more challenging. So for this, you can use your chair or bench. We come down onto the side, and we're gonna place a knee on top of this box. So bottom leg goes in front, top leg goes on top, and then we're going to push up into our Copenhagen plank into here. Now, if you're not doing the Copenhagen plank, just come into this side plank here and hold the isometric. If the Copenhagen plank is enough, just here to hold, take that for 8 breaths. And the final add-on you can add to this, if this all feels comfortable, is to add some rotation. Now, the pelvis stays stacked if you're coming into this, but the reach comes through the ribs, okay? And I'm just going to do 8 breaths just here. So meet yourself where you are. If the side plank felt hard enough, stick with the side plank. If the Copenhagen plank feels hard enough, stick with that isometric. If you feel like you can do this in a beautiful way, nice and controlled, keeping that leg still, the pelvis high, then come into this one. And last one there. Okay, switching round onto the other side. Okay, coming up into your side plank, come up into your Copenhagen plank, and then we're going to reach through for 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Make sure you're nicely stacked over the bottom arm. 5, 6 and 7, and last one here, and 8. Then the last one. So you can either stick with the rock and rolls with the little rolling back, or a couple of weeks ago we had a play with a reverse roll down. Now for this, you can either use a heavy weight or just stick your hands underneath the sofa. Okay, it doesn't really matter which you choose for, but just like that rock and roll, we come from here, reach the elbows to the sky, very, very slowly, very controlled. Tap the floor with the toes. Use the abs to draw you up. Slowly, slowly, slowly come down. Tap the floor. And then we draw ourselves up with the abs. So often I'll see people at the bottom here, and they sort of go like this. Okay, it's a smooth motion of control, rolling yourself up. You can use the arms, but really the arm position is helping us take the shoulder blades away from the spine so we can get really nice flexion all the way up and down the spine. Okay, I'm just going to do 2 more just here. Slowly, slowly, slowly. If you're doing those little rock and rolls, just keep on exploring those. And then last one here. And 1. Okay. Whew. So we're just going to finish 1 more set of those. I'll talk less through this final set. Right, so we're going to start off with either the wall bug with the head about a fist distance from the wall, hands against the wall, or you can come into your dead bugs. So here we go. Reaching the arms up to the sky, reach overhead, long as you can, slow as on that through that exhale for 1. Just make sure you keep a tiny little ant's path underneath your lower back. And 2. And as I said, if you feel this in your back, you need to regress back to those wall bugs and really nail the isometric before you come into the full variations. 4, 5. Really nice pelvic stability in this one. And 6. And then I feel as I exhale, everything gets really, like the pressure in my abdomen gets really small. And last one there. Switching around into the other side, off we go. And for 1, sometimes shoulders can feel a bit funky in this. Just keep reaching up and away, and make sure the knuckle is facing the floor. 4 and 5 and 6. Smooth, smooth exhales. 7. If you're on that wall bug, just keep on doing a few reps, have a break, and then come back again. And there's 8. Okay, next up, into our bear crawls. So we've taught our body how to sit in, how to stabilize. Okay, if you don't want to bear crawl, remember you're just coming into this all 4 abs position here. Here we go, nice and stable, knees low, eyes forward, long spine. Just go with that reverse. If it doesn't feel coordinated at the start, just learning a new skill. Your brain's putting things together. And last one here. Really nice and strong and stable as we come back. Whew. Copenhagen planks next. So you're either going to do it as a side plank here with your reach, your isometric Copenhagen plank here, or you're going to come into the reaches. And we're going to go for 8 of those reaches. Okay. Whoosh. Okay, up we go. So we come through. And for 1 and 2. Don't compromise the pelvis and leg for the rotation, otherwise you're not really getting much from it. It's all about turning at the ribs and holding this pelvis as it is. And 5, 6, and 7, and last one here, and 8. Always by this third set of anything, it should feel quite challenging because we sort of wake up the first set of muscles, like the big ones that we need for this exercise. And then as they get fatigued, they start to recruit more muscles. And then by your third set, because you're tired, you're recruiting all the muscles. So it's sort of like a build when we do these reps, which is why it's important to recover in between. Okay, on to the other side. And for 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold the pelvis very, very still. 7, reaching up. And 8. Whew. Okay, and then our last exercise in this set is our reverse roll-ups. Okay, here we go. Whew. So holding the weight or tuck your hands underneath the bench, or coming into those rock and rolls if you're still working your way through those. Meet yourself where you are, and then off we go. For 1, slowly, slowly, slowly. And 2. Now the distance between my thighs and my tummy doesn't really change until I start lowering the legs at the end. So watch out for collapsing in to take the effort out of the core. So we roll up, my knees stay exactly where they are in terms of my body, and then slowly it rolls away. Okay, and just 3 more here. 3 and 2, and last one, and 1. Whoop. Whew. Okay, so we've got a minute and a half. We're just going to start doing a tiny little bit of like nice work on the core that isn't creating stiffness. So you're going to need to kneel down on the floor. You can get your ball. You can use any ball for this, really. You don't need to use a slam ball. Get into kneeling. We're going to reach the ball into the air. We're going to slam, slam, slam. So I've just got 1 kilogram here. And I'm just spinning it from here. We're just going to do 40 seconds. It's a really nice way of just getting the ribs moving. Working. You could use a football for this. It's more the motion we're looking for rather than the weight at this moment. big rises up and over. And just think about that lovely like rotation happening and movement at your ribs. And just 5 seconds to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, one last little exercise to finish, just because it's nice to have a little bit of plyometrics in every session. We are going to go for a few little eccentric lunges. Okay, so all we're going to do is bounce, bounce, drop and lunge. Okay, bounce, bounce, drop and lunge. Same side, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9, 10. Okay, switching around to the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Whew. Now, if you've got time, have a little break, and you could probably repeat that a couple of times through. If not, that's a nice little bit of plyometric playing. Well done on a superb session, everybody. That was really tough. Let me know if you've got any thoughts or questions.